Good evening. Welcome to our Monday, May 18th school board meeting. This month, we are only having one meeting because we have a grand finale of our seniors graduating in a week. So that is why we only have one meeting this month. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Can I get roll call?
Ms. Alcar.
Here.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Here.
Dr. Dillon.
Here.
Ms. Liskini.
Here.
Mrs. Peterson.
Here. Can we now move to adoption of the agenda? There is no, I'm sorry. I assume there is nothing to discuss for the public hearing.
You need to mention.
Right. I was like, wait before I skip that part. So tonight there was a section on the agenda about a public hearing, and it is for anyone to be able from the audience to speak about discussion around us having 2 bus drivers we're bringing forward for, we call it retire, rehire purposes. Is there any discussion around this section? Okay, hearing none. Now we're going to move to adoption of tonight's agenda.
So moved, Liskini.
Can I get a second?
Second, Dillon.
Roll call. Any discussion first? any edits or additions? Okay, roll call.
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Dr. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Alcar.
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes. Now we're going to do approval of meeting minutes for the April 13th and the April 27th meetings. Can I get a motion? Yes. Yes, D'Angelo Steele. Can I get a second?
Second, Alcar.
Is there any discussion on meeting minutes? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Mrs. Alcar.
Yes.
Dr. Dillon.
Yes.
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes. Now tonight we are moving along to our presentations, and we have school spotlight for Darby-Dale Elementary School with Ms. Noble. Welcome. I see you're in the boot and the balance.
I'm doing pretty good, though.
Doing good.
Good evening, President Peterson, Vice President Liskini, members of the board, Mr. Banks, and Mr. Garside. I'm here today to brag about Darby-Dale Elementary School. All right, so we're working really hard with literacy. This year we've focused on our comprehension, getting more comfortable with our HMH program that we have adopted, and also comprehension in all subject areas, not just reading. And our students and staff are really enjoying our Knowledge Building Week content. For math, teachers and students are really enjoying the Building Thinking Classrooms initiative that we have started. We have a space on our stage that has vertical aligned whiteboards that students get to come down and visit and do different learning tasks with their class. We're practicing different SEL components, making sure each member of the group holds the whiteboard or the whiteboard marker to make sure that they're participating. And then our math coach led a book study around the Building Thinking Classrooms, and we had several staff members participate in that. So we're already looking forward to next year and how we can use some of the vertical aligned spaces in our classroom, so we don't always have to go down to the area for that. So we're excited for that. And then for PD this summer, we're going to have a focus on the Amplify math curriculum. We're going to strengthen our adult regulation strategies. We're going to continue to strengthen our MTSS process to reach more students. That's one of the many things I'm very proud of this year, we modified the model that we did for MTSS this year and did it during the school day once a month. And so we were able to reach more students, and our teachers are doing a phenomenal job with the data collection process and the interventions. So the MTSS is my passion project, so I'm excited to see where we can take that going forward. Next slide, please. All right, we're very fortunate to have many partnerships over at Darby-Dale. We partner with our school social workers once a month. They go into all 16 of our homerooms and they are teaching different SEL lessons. We had 2nd and 7 visit this spring, so our 2nd graders got to interact with that organization and each student got to take home a new book. The Children's Hunger Alliance, we partner with them. We have a program called the Weekend Dolphins, and so this is a program to help make sure each of our students are set up for success and have food to access over the weekend. Something special with that was we partnered in February with Kroger and CHA, and they provided 400 meals to our families for the Super Bowl. They had different soups and chilies and things in those bags, so that was a really neat partnership. UMC Harrisburg, we partner with them. They have volunteers that come in to our cafeteria once a week and help students open their different lunch items, just interact with students in a positive way. They also provided holiday meals and gifts for many of our families this year. I'm looking forward to continuing that partnership. We did a math day where families were able to come into the school and play a math game with their child. And then we did a Literacy Title I event. We did a one book, one school event. We all read the book called Fenway and Hattie. And then at the end of that celebration, we had families in for a special evening, and the children got to take their families around to the different stations that were related to the book. So that was a really exciting event that we had there. And then another partnership I want to highlight is our PTA. We have such a strong, supportive PTA. They planned so many things for our school, such as the Spring Carnival. It was free this year, so every Darby-Dale student got raffle tickets, and they just got to participate in the free games and spend time with family and friends. And then they also planned a fun family game night. They planned many other things, but those are two of the highlights I wanted to mention. For other supports, we work closely with our care team each week, and we work with many outside agencies and partners such as Ohio Health Grief Group, that was new this year, and we hope to keep that partnership. Directions for Youth and Families, and we have different incentives and things in place to support our PBIS. Another partnership we have is Pleasant Township. As a staff, for one of the staff meetings, we did a CPR, actually 2 staff meetings. We were trained in CPR by Pleasant Township Fire Department, and we had a fire safety week that they came over for, and they always hold their Pancakes with Santa event in December. So that was a special event for our students and families. Something I'm really proud of is Student of the Month. When I got this role, one of the things that we wanted to bring back was Student of the Month, and so far we have 259 students that have been nominated so far, and we have self-discipline as our virtue for May, and so I'm excited to see which students will get to be nominated next week for that virtue. And then who we are, academics, attendance, supporting the staff, Manners Matter initiative. We do daily announcements. I video record those every day. They have updates for the day, the week, the birthdays. We celebrate our students' birthdays on the announcements. There's always an SEL component. It talks about Student of the Month virtues, Manners Matter, and then also our daily Dolphin Pride ticket winners. We pull 2 names from our Pride tickets every single day for each grade level, and so they get to come down to celebrate their positive behavior or going over and above for our school. And then our Manners Matter moment of the day, that is something that we started this year, and students have really enjoyed this. We have 113 students who have been recognized for being polite and using their manners, and so that looks like anybody can nominate a student. And then at the end of the day, I go over the PA and I announce who was nominated, and then they get their picture in the office. Other things we're doing to plan, like we plan different things for our staff. We have a social committee that's very active and they work really hard to do different potlucks and other treats and things for our staff in the lounge. And we recently started Fifth Caller Friday, so every once in a while on a Friday I'll come on at the end of the day and play a song, and the fifth caller staff member gets a fun little gift card. So it's pretty competitive. I get a lot of calls, but I'm just really proud of our community, and thank you for allowing me to be here tonight, and I'm happy to address any questions.
I'm wondering if you could share a little bit. You mentioned your adult regulation PD. I'm not familiar with that. I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, we've been partnering with a company called Elevate, and so we are using different strategies to help with work-life balance, help eliminate that teacher burnout, making sure that we're regulated as adults so we can help children that are not regulated, just different strategies to help with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Do you feel like all of the PBIS initiatives you're doing have positively been reflecting in the MTSS with discipline and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. I don't have the numbers for you tonight, but our behavioral referral data and suspension, the data is down from last year. Absolutely.
How many times did you serve hot chocolate this year? That new without hot
A
chocolate?
lot.
Yeah, they all
Yeah.
have.
Yes.
When I was there, they were using the hot water machine for hot chocolate.
Yes, we were. We did that. That was one of our iReady initiatives for February, I believe, or March. Yeah.
That was cool. That was fun though. Everyone was ready for it. That was
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And I hope your foot healed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alright, moving along. Monty is already set in place, ready to go. We're gonna now have the facilities presentation with Monty, Hugh, and Mr. Banks.
Good evening. I'll go ahead and kick this off. We want to thank the board for the opportunity to present. Our topic tonight is not new information, as it's been discussed publicly in this meeting long before I was superintendent. However, the opportunity is approaching for us to make some significant improvements to our facilities and impact our students. We're going to begin with just a brief review of some of our recent facility projects. We'll go all the way back to 1993. When the district was facing some growth in 2 of our 4 quadrants, and the district was able to pass a bond issue in 93 that built Buckeye Woods Elementary and a new Darby Woods Elementary. On to the next one. In 1998, I was an assistant principal at Norton Middle School, and we were on split sessions, and I know I'm looking out at the crowd, and many of you lived through that in one way or another. But the 1998 bond issue brought us out of split sessions and delivered us many new buildings as a result of that, and ended the split sessions. You can see the Career Academy, Central Crossing High School, all of that was a result of the 1998 bond issue. Now the next one was a little bit different. This was in 2012. In 2012, mixed up here. In 2012, we were able to have some unique circumstances. You'll notice our logo in the bottom right-hand corner of the graphic there, and you'll also see a green icon that shows that the OFCC participated in this, and you'll see a blue one that says no new millage. So this was different than the previous 2 projects that I mentioned that was passed and paid for completely by taxpayers. This obviously had some unique circumstances, and we were able to, purchase or build 13 elementary schools, renovate a couple, and obviously Franklin Heights High School was a big part of that. Moving forward, just 6 years later, 2018, notice at the bottom of the graphic, you'll see the same circumstances existed, and this resulted in 4 brand new middle schools: Jackson Middle School renovation, East Franklin renovation, and many other smaller projects throughout the district. So I give you that history if you go to the next slide, but I also don't want to overlook the overall picture here. So this goes back into the 90s, and it shows our success rate at the ballot. And to what you will see is the green check marks mean that the issue passed, and you can see that they don't always pass. But you also see the most recent ones at the bottom of that. We're on a little bit of a roll, and the last two issues had very similar circumstances to what we're facing tonight. So I just wanted to provide you just a brief history of that and kind of set that up, and Monty's going to walk us through the issue that we're trying to solve here. So Monty, will you take it from here?
Yeah, good evening. So as you can see, kind of finishing off that new millage piece from the 12 and 18 bonds. Now we're looking at what's called segment 3. So segment 1 and 2 are there. Segment 3 here really is going to look at Grove City and Westland High Schools. You know, we look at these pictures of these two facilities. It's hard to think that those were built in 1970 when you look at them. From an appearance standpoint, they look great. The real story's behind the walls, under the floors, and in the ceilings. So let's talk about some of our latest issues that we've been dealing with at these two particular facilities. So again, they were open in 1970. So they've served the district for over 55 years pretty well. But we're having some issues. So, you know, looking at some of the pictures, we had to bring in some portable heaters this last winter to try to get the temperature in the building above 60 degrees. We've had to dig up, tear out water lines, sewer lines. We have all kinds of different failing pieces that are in behind the walls and floors that you don't see from the outside. So we talk about HVAC controls there. This is an oddity for us. We have a control system in these two buildings that is non-existent. We can't get parts for it. We were very fortunate back in the ESSER funding days where we replaced a bunch of HVAC systems across the district. And what we took out, we kept parts for because it's keeping these two buildings running right now because we could no longer get the parts to keep them going. Even back to the idea that we're running pneumatic controls in these buildings. So that system itself is pretty aged. Again, it's non-existent and obsolete at this point in time. You know, and fast forward to the next one. We even talk about electrical panels. You know, last year we had a situation with electric at Grove City High School where the main switchgear, you can see some pictures there, failed. And we had to close school. We had to close down and send kids home. We couldn't get those parts. Our maintenance team actually had to go and rebuild the system so we could have school the next day. And again, temperatures in some of the rooms in that cold weather, even to temperatures causing pipe breaks, as we can remember the pool in the East ERC at Grove City High School, and then the gym floor that was damaged because of that. So those are some of the things that you see behind the scenes that aren't what you see from the road or from the hallways within the building. So let's talk a little bit about the OFCC and how that works. So we talked about segment 1 with the elementaries. We talked about segment 2, which is the middle schools. We replaced 4 of those middle school buildings and then added on to Jackson. This is what we're calling segment 3 with the OFCC. So what we did back in that originally assessment is the state came in and they assessed all the buildings across the district. And they came up with a plan as a major overall plan. Obviously, we as a district, our taxpayers, couldn't afford to do the whole plan for the entire district. So they broke us up into these segments. So in this segment, they take a look at each one of your facilities and they assess that building facility. And they take a look at it and say, what would it cost to bring that building up to standards versus replacing that building? So they kind of have this 2/3 rule. If it costs 2/3 of building a new building to bring it up to current standards, their recommendation is replace the building. You're going to have more up-to-date pieces in your building. You're going to have more effective cost effectiveness of that building if you replace it versus trying to renovate it. And so that's what comes out of that. So the OFCC did that back then in ours, and they looked at how the long-term value of a renovation versus a replacement didn't fit these buildings. They've redone that assessment and reviewed it again. And so now we look at what they have just recently done this last fall here for us. We've met with them a couple times. And they did another review of the project, and they still agree that it is better to replace than renovate. In fact, they're saying that Grove City High School is about 82% cost to renovate it versus replacing it. And Westland High School is 83% cost to renovate versus replacing. So obviously we've outdone that 2/3 rule. So their recommendation is to replace it. The other thing they did as an update to this is back in the original start of the OFCC for segment 1, they do enrollment projections and they look at all the data. So they've done that again as we're starting this next segment. They're taking a look at the enrollment across the district. We fed them a bunch of data, they kicked it into their system, and they came back out with their projections. So they look out 10 years. So looking at the 2035 to 2036 school year, their projection is over 22,000 students for the district. They're estimating that we need a Grove City High School with 1,700, a little over 1,700, and Westland High School with a little over 1,700 students. So that's some of their enrollment projections for this upcoming year. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Garza.
Thank you very much, Monty. Next up, we're going to have some talk about conditions that the OFCC puts districts through to have them be eligible for funds. So first, obviously the state of Ohio has to have the funds available in the first place to be able to provide them to the schools. So sometimes other people's misfortunes are our advantage. So Groveport locally was trying to pass a bond issue, an OFCC bond issue, and it did not pass. So they tried that a couple times and they said, you know, we're going to take a hold on that for a while. So that moved us up the list. So that moved us up the list to be able to actually even have the opportunity to do this. If we weren't high enough on the list, we would not be sitting here at this opportunity. I had written them a letter, the OFCC a letter to kind of make our case to say that, you know, we should be a good candidate for you. We've done 2 projects with you on time, on budget. We were able to get these done and look at, and the buildings are wonderful. We also were able to do that with the 2 no new millage bond issues, which was also positive. So we gave them a lot of encouragement to say, please let us have some ability at your funds. So Monty just talked about the eligibility rating. These buildings are deemed to be not going to be refurbished buildings, they're going to be new builds. So Westland and Grove City new builds. We talked to the board about all this. They were on board, so they're going to have something to approve in June, hopefully. It's still up in the air right now, but they will have that approval process next month. And then last but not least, that approval process will allow us to put an initiative on the ballot to pass a bond issue to fund these schools. Again, the key point to that is a no new millage bond issue. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple slides. But that's really how that all lays out on where we would become eligible for this program. Next, we have some conditions that the OFCC puts in place for us. So we don't just go design buildings however we want to design them. There's something called a design manual, the OFCC design manual. And what that manual says is that if you're building a science classroom, this is what needs to happen in that science classroom. If you have X number of students in the building, this is the square footage you get. So we're really going by their design manual. And we have some local input on some things that we like to do, some of the things that we would call locally funded initiatives, things like terrazzo on our fronts. If you look at all of our new builds, in the front entrance area, there's terrazzo. It's expensive, but we only put it in a very small area, that real high traffic area, and that keeps that part of the building nice. So that's one of the things. Next, we have, when we are partnering with the OFCC, we meet with them just about every week from the beginning, talking about what the project's going to be, what we're planning on doing. And so they have, since they're putting in 50% of the funds, they also are approving things. We're not just given the money and we just do what we want. We're meeting with OFCC team members and really getting down to the nitty gritty on what we're doing with these buildings. So they have to sign off on all those things. And last but not least, the bond issue, it does have to have a local share part of that. We had to put in our 50%. The state's gonna put in 50% of the eligible costs, what would be called co-funded portions. There's certain things that aren't co-funded. All the projects before did not include, except for, if you remember Franklin Heights. When we did Franklin Heights, there was a 50% share with Franklin Heights. But what part of the building remained at Franklin Heights? The auditorium. The auditorium remained the same because the state does not co-fund auditoriums. Now, that worked in our elementaries and our middle schools. It worked to do a cafetorium where we have the cafeteria and a little stage so they can do their performances. But if you're talking about a high school, you really need an auditorium. You need that performing arts. If you go to see some of our shows, they're fantastic. So that part is really necessary. So it's not, when you look at is it a 50-50 split? It's not going to be a 50-50 split because we have to pay for the auditorium. Also, there are some other things that will cost they're called locally funded initiatives. We're looking at some other areas where we can, even with the no new millage bond issue, provide extra things for Central Crossing and Franklin Heights. So it's not just a Grove City Westland thing. We're going to be able to provide some other things to those as well. That 50% funding that we get from the state of Ohio, from the OFCC, that was set in place in 2012. If we were going now, it would be much higher percent. And actually in 2018, we went knocking on their door and I wrote a really nice letter on why they should give us more money at that time. And this time I wasn't as successful as I was. So they said, thanks, but no thanks. Because what that would mean is they would have to spend a lot more money on Southwestern. So they said, your 50% was put in place in 2012. That amount is not going to change in the future. So that's where we are at 50% funding for Southwestern City Schools. So moving on to the financial part. This is where I'll try to take this slow, and if you have any questions, please stop me and let's talk about it. How this works, how does a no new millage model work? First of all, you have to have some things in place. So when I got here, my first day on the job in 1999 was going to St. Louis to sell bonds for the Central Crossing, the Career Academy, and the intermediate school. So that first day on the job, I'm going out there. But what I can tell you, that wasn't my first day on the job here. My first day on the job here was the thought when I was at Logan Elman, when I started there in 1994, I always kind of looked at this school district as somewhere where I'd like to be. It was a growing school district. They had a lot of opportunities here. And what I saw in Franklin County is I saw a school district up in Dublin that was doing this thing called no new millage. So no new millage was, they were building side of the high school, some other things going up in Dublin. So I said, hey, let's try to structure this debt in a way that we can do this. Maybe we can have the opportunity to do it in Southwestern. So doing that, put in place, thinking about in the future to be able to do a no new millage bond issue. In 2012, we got our opportunity. In 2012, we passed a no new millage bond issue for the elementary buildings at Franklin Heights High School. At that time in 2012, the millage rate was 6.2 mils. That's what we were collecting. We did it again in 2018, the millage rate was 6.1. We didn't go above that amount. We stayed within our means, as we said. And in 2026, right now, the millage rate, because values have increased, that millage rate right now is 3.65. So what we're promising in the no new millage is that we will not go above 3.65 mils from now until this debt is paid off. What gets confusing is there is a new issuance. We're going to have something on the ballot that says probably 2.2 mils. I don't really know what that number is, but that's my guess is what it's going to say. 2.2 doesn't get added to the 3.65. We're just saying we're not going to go above 3.65. That's a promise that we're giving our voters. And we can't use this on anything else but doing the buildings. The only use of these funds are for buildings and everything that goes with the buildings. No personnel can be paid for, no textbooks, none of the things that we do out of our general fund can be used in this project. It'll be solely for this no new millage bond issue. Go to the next.
Can I
Mhm.
ask? So if we're saying no new mills 3.65, we won't go above that, and we go to the ballot box in November, and it's a different number.
I'll explain that in the next slide.
Okay. You said if I had questions, jump in.
That's an excellent question, and I'll explain that in a little bit more detail.
Hold my thumb.
So one of the things that we have been, I think the past is a good predictor to the future. When we said we wouldn't go above those millage rates, we have not. You can go to the Franklin County Auditor and have them pull up all the bond rates we've had since 2012, and those numbers were never exceeded. They never went above what we said where we were. Another thing, we've been very efficient with our building projects. Even in our 1998 bond issue, when we built Central Crossing and the intermediates and the Career Academy, we stayed on time and on budget with those. We're actually able to refurbish Hayes Intermediate. That was not part of the project, so we had some funds left over, and we were able to open up and put Hayes on the books too. In 2012, when we did our project there, we were able to do that one on time and on budget. I mean, that was 13 brand new elementary schools. We did in three phases. That's a big, you did 4 one year, 4 another year, and 5 another year. That's a lot going on in the school district, plus trying to run the school district itself. And we've done it on time and on budget. Now, there's no, you can't promise that for every project, but I think that we have, we put things in place so we make sure we do that. We're very conservative with our estimates. We're very strict on what we have in our design manual and what we'll add to it. So we know we can stay on budget. That 2018 one, remember what happened shortly thereafter 2018? There were COVID and what happened with costs of materials. It was crazy. And we still were able to deliver on the 4 middle schools in the addition to Jackson. We were still able to do all that. So some things that we don't really have control over is there's some financial realities to the market. So like I said, we survived COVID with the 2018 issue. There's a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot of things that are uncertainties. So we're trying to structure this build in a way that we have most of those at least accounted for. So we're being very conservative so far with what we've looked at in our budgeting of the overall package. So you can go ahead and move to the next question. So why is the ballot millage different than the no new millage promise? Why are those two things not the same? The ballot language doesn't take into account any debt you're paying right now. It looks at it standalone all by itself. So what it's going to look at when we have at the next meeting, we'll have a resolution of necessity. And that resolution of necessity is going to say that we want to do this project and we're going to give all of our information to the Franklin County Auditor. And then that entity, the Franklin County Auditor, will provide, I'll give him, this is how much debt we want to go into. And he knows what our assessed value is. They will use an assumed interest rate that may or may not be true. And they'll also structure it in a way that all the debt payments are exactly the same every year. All those things are going to change between now and when the bonds are actually sold. So our assessed value is going to change at the end of this year. That's one of the big numbers that's used. The interest rate that we finally sell these bonds for at the market when we go to sell, it's going to be different than the interest rate used in the calculation. And you'll see all these on the resolution to proceed. You'll see all those details on there. And then a level debt payment is not going to be how it is. We structure these in a way that we can keep that millage rate under 3.65. So that being said, I think the millage rate will be somewhere around 2.2 mils. So to your question, why are we saying 2.2 mils when we say we won't go above 3.65? This 3.65 has some debt that's rolling off. It has the project in 1998 that we did. Those bonds are expiring. There's no more payments that we're making on those. So it's kind of like, hey, I just paid off my house. Maybe we can refinance and do some additions. So that's really what we're doing here, is that we have some debt that's going away, and we know we're not gonna go above 3.65, so we'll add some to get it up to 3.65. And then when we sell the bonds, we take all the existing debt plus this new debt, and we'll ladder it out in a way to keep it under 3.65 mils. That's really how it works. Now, what's important to note, and I said this in 2012 and I said it in 2018, what happens if this thing doesn't pass? What happens if it doesn't pass? Your taxes will go down. People's taxes will go down if this does not pass. We don't want to hide behind that. We want to be upfront with everybody. What it will change is, I think it'll be, not knowing exactly what the valuations are going to be and other factors. It would be about $1.5 million maybe decrease for our taxpayers. And what that means, it'd be about $52.50 per 100,000, or $4.40 per month per 100,000. Okay, so it would go down a bit, not significantly. I don't want to, I'm not discounting what everybody's, your budget's your budget in your own home, but sometimes mills get confused with how much is it that really is. These are the facts. For every $100,000 of value, I think the taxes will go down about $52.50 a year, or $4.40 a month. Everybody follow me on that? Okay.
So if you have a $300,000 home,
Yes. If you have a $300,000 home, your taxes would change. I wrote that down because I thought somebody asked it. Our average home in Southwestern City Schools is about $350,000. That's the average home in the whole school district. So for a year, that's about $184 in property taxes, or $15.40. So
That they're paying,
that their taxes will go down
that will go down.
if this does not happen. $15 a month on the average home in Southwestern City Schools.
Which is
Good question.
not as much as when it passes. When it passes, like the amount the district receives is more than $100 out of that. Does that make sense? So you just said for that $300,000 home, it would potentially go down. You would be getting $100.
Yes, we have no need. So if this doesn't pass, that debt is paid off. Our debt payments for the future are less. So because that's how the county auditor, he looks at it every year. We talk about it. I have communication with the county auditor, say, okay, here's my debt payments for next year. And they look at our values, assessed values, and they look at what we need to collect to pay off that debt, and that's the millage rate they set. Right now, that's 3.65. It will go down something because I don't have as much debt to pay off next year. So that's why it goes down, because there's no debt to pay. So what we're looking to do is use this opportunity, because we get roughly 50% from the state, and we can do it without raising people's millage rate. They can just continue to pay what they're paying right now and access 50% of the state fund. So, and get two rated buildings. So that's to me, that's the information that people need to know.
2 new buildings with 2 other properties with potential improvements, gains as well, to bring some of them up to a level of the other buildings, if we are able to do the improvements we would like to do.
Yes.
So the 2018 6.1 mils, is that still, that's still,
That's down to 3.65 now.
okay, that's down to 3.65.
Because values
Which is
increasing, yes.
That's the 3.65 that you're talking about. So it's not literally what you're paying now. This is the only levy is what.
Yes, and theoretically, over time, that 3.65 mils, as values continue to increase, that 3.65 mils is going to keep going down. It'll go down because values go up. We're not asking to collect more money from our taxpayers. We're just asking them to take the same.
Just for clarification, if we get to the vote in November and a no vote happens multiple times, we put it up a couple times, we still need new buildings. We still have all these problems that need to be fixed, but we would not have the OFCC funding of it. Is that correct?
The OFCC gives us some time to pass it. It's not a one and done. They do give us some time to pass it, but what I would warn against is inflation is real, and any delay that we have in this project, the costs are going to keep going up. We've already looked at inflation for time. Money's going to talk about a timeline. We've already factored in what we know inflation, or what we believe inflation will be. So that is a big part of it. So any delay will just cost the project more to get the same product.
How many times they give you? You're gonna give me 5, you're gonna give me 8. Great.
So
Had 3 shots.
to kind of tighten a little bit what Monty said. So this has been talked about for quite a few years now. It's not, so this was back, OCC, whatever you guys had the stage 1, you had the stage 2, like this was all part of the game plan, right? This isn't something new, like some new crazy idea. This was something that y'all talked about when I was still in middle school.
Yeah, so that was the part of the master planning piece
Okay.
originally when the OFCC came around. I mean, if you got to remember, the OFCC projects really came around back when the state won a lawsuit, basically, and they took all the money from the lawsuit and they threw it into public school buildings. So this project, how it's being set up, has been done through that funding. And it's been staged out over years based off of need. And as Mr. Garside said, our 50% was set back in 2012 when our time came up at that point, time to be in line. So that's why you only also get the 3 opportunities to pass, because they're going to pass and go to somebody else.
And then I was gonna kind of tie this into the financial kind of discussion that you had, but you did a financial thing a couple months ago. Can we point out also that the 50%, Southwest has their 50%? Or do we have like or this is
We
what
have to sell the bonds.
right, to get
That's
that,
how we get the 50%.
right, and then, that's right, and then but like, I was trying to to the budget, right, so this money is a part, like the operating budget is separate,
Totally separate
and like, so there is money in our operating budget,
to operators.
operate the schools, which is separate than for the
Yes.
building of the budget, so
Yes.
that's what I was trying to tie that in there, like there's not.
Good point.
A lot of money for repairs.
Yes.
82% and 83% cost. Yes.
Yeah, we
What?
estimated about $70 million for these 2 buildings combined, 35 million each for new HVAC systems, roofing systems, because look at the roofs on these buildings versus every roof that we've put on since then. We have the standing seam roofs on all our new buildings. Those cost us a little bit extra.
Right.
We pay a little bit of locally funded initiatives to have those, because those things have been like gold. They are those.
50-year roof, this is 30.
Yeah, they don't fail.
So I'll jump into some of the what's next. So as we've been looking, we've been working on this for a while, as we said. So obviously the focus is Grove City and Westland High School being the 2 oldest buildings, basically. They haven't been renovated in their lifespan compared to the rest of the district. We also, as President Peterson talked about, we're planning some projects at the other buildings to kind of bring them up to par. So obviously we're looking at building the new Grove City High School and the Westland High School. We're looking at some career-based programming in these buildings. We're looking at some extra career tech credentialing that we could handle in these buildings. And, we have wait lists at the career academies. Bringing some of those programs back into those 2 buildings could help out our student population. And then we look at, Central Crossing, Franklin Heights. Obviously, when we did Franklin Heights, as Mr. Garside said, the auditorium wasn't done then. Well, neither was the stadium. So there's some needed improvements at some of these sites, Central Crossing, Franklin Heights. that we want to look at as well. So we're going to talk about a timeline a little bit. I'm going to jump back to last year. Last year, we hired an architect firm to start planning projects. We have to have some numbers. We had to have some kind of ideas. Where are we coming at? Mr. Garside's got the numbers out. I know I got about this much money. We're getting an idea from the OFCC and what they think the cost of the buildings are. We're adjusting that number to what we think that our locally funded initiatives will be in there. Auditoriums, standing seam steel roofs, some of those other upgrades that are not part of that design manual. And we're coming up with a budget idea of where we think it is. Not only are we doing that, but we're also looking at the inflation, as he said. We're looking at, okay, when we start these projects, and that's part of the reason we look at this timeline, there's some time. If you remember back in 2018 ballot, we didn't open up those buildings for a couple of years after that. That it takes time to go through that process. So in 2025, we did hire an architect that is working with us. I have an overall master plan. We're talking tonight about the program, but in June, we're talking about the board passing a resolution to go to ballot. Then we'd have the ballot in November. Assuming the ballot passes, in December, we would start the projects that we've been working on with the architects, some of these other improvements. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of upcoming slides. So in January, you'll see architect and contractor selection. Well, I just told you I had an architect we hired for doing work. Because the OFCC is part owner in this project, there's a whole process for selecting the architect that actually designs the buildings. It's a process for selecting the contractor that does the work on the buildings. So until we pass the ballot in November, we will then start a process with the OFCC where we'll go out and hire an architect for actual building designs. We'll hire the contractors that'll be actually building the buildings. That won't happen until January of 2027. That process will start. The work that we're talking about in December is all the work that we need to do to get ready for breaking ground for new buildings. We're building these buildings on property that we own currently, existing sites. There's a lot of different pieces that have to fall in place to make that happen. So we're going to have to play a little shell game and move some things around on properties so that we can put a building. Rough estimate right now. The OFCC is estimating that these are going to be about 275,000 square foot buildings, probably 3 stories tall, to fit on our sites. So those are some estimates that they have. Until we get the architect in and get in designing, we won't have exacts on that. So we'll fast forward into February where we'll start having meetings because we'll have hired our design group from the architect firm. We'll start having community input, student input, staff input meetings where we'll go out and collect information. What do you want to see in these buildings? That's when we're starting designing. Then we'll get into early 2029 when we actually start seeing shovels in the ground for these buildings. So you've got this time period in between where we're hiring the different contractors and architects. We're getting input from communities and stakeholders, families, students, staff members to get into that construction in early 2029 with a 2-year plus construction time period where we'd actually be talking about opening the summer, August of 2031 would be the opening of those buildings. So as you kind of look at that timeline, we want to be very open and honest about, there's a lot of people are going to say, we passed it in November, why aren't you breaking ground? There is a long process here with the OFCC that we have to go through to get to that point. Plus, we want to have our input from our community and our staff and our students.
Monty, I have a question. So in between that time, so from like January, February 27 through shovels hitting dirt, that's also the time when we're selling those bonds and collecting that money. Yes?
We'll go to market as quickly as we can.
So it's not like nothing's getting done.
Well, yeah, and I'll add more to that.
Correct. And sometimes you issue a smaller portion at first just to get money flowing. If the interest rates aren't great to lock into, you might sell some notes, not bond out right away. Notes are short-term way to get some funds with your bond issue. And then once you lock in and you know you have a good rate, you sell the bonds. Those are long-term issues.
So, that's where you're at. But to add to that, go ahead. When we start looking at, and this is what we've been doing, you're going to see some green blobs on property. The reason they're green blobs is we don't have an architect to design the blobs. Our current architect can give us some estimated square footage numbers and put them on a map and say, this is where we think you can put it on your current property. We talked about this in a board meeting the other year, last year or the year before. I'm sorry, my dates missed me. Where we talked about we're going to have to move things to make this work. We need to be able to operate our buildings for this 2-year time period while the building's being constructed. So we're going to have to maintain what's going on in the current building and athletics and different pieces. So we're looking right now, and that's what we're doing with that current master planning architect, is where can we physically place this? We think it can work without interrupting current instruction at the building, yet still being able to offer our students opportunities for athletics, music, band, those kinds of things. So Grove City right now, we're kind of looking at this area. You'll see it's over top of some existing ball fields. That's things that we're going to have to start looking at moving. So if the bond passes, that early December, early projects, those are the things we're talking about. Those are things that are not funded by the OFCC at all. That's not part of a co-funded piece. So those are things that we're using in our estimates as we're going through and getting those numbers to determine what projects do we need to do to make this building fit on the site. Taking advantage of structures and pieces that we already have in play and being able to still come up with a site that in the long run meets the needs of our community. So we can look at Westland and see, we're kind of looking at that green blob. I like to call it the green blob. And that's kind of looking at what spacing do we have, what facilities. Each one of these brings its own nuance of challenges. We've probably moved them around the site 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months. We've met with the 2 high school buildings and kind of have talked through some of these different challenges and what their needs might be at their facilities. But right now, that's kind of where we're looking at, like we think based off the numbers the OFCC has given us and what they can estimate, that's where we can put a building. We are currently in some site review basically. So they're out doing site reviews. We're hoping to get that information back soon, where we can see actual boundaries and start playing a little bit more with actual numbers versus some different pieces. So we're still continuing that work. That work will continue on all the way up through the bond passage. But again, the intent would be as soon as we're done with the bond, we're going to start moving. We'll be coming to talk to you about things like we need to get this project for construction, board approval to move forward with this or that. We are doing a couple other things, and there's another item on the agenda tonight where we're looking at some cooperative purchasing for some of these pieces that potentially could put us ahead of the game because we are going to have a tight window. So that's kind of where we're looking at the sites. I think that would be the end of it. If there's any other questions, I'm sure any one of us could answer.
Yes. As a community member who loves old homes and refurbishing and reusing and recycling, I think sometimes it's hard to wrap our brains around. We have these buildings, like you said, that look great on the outside and still houses our students. With that, what you're saying is that 66.7% threshold is what the OFCC says. If you're below that,
they would recommend renovations.
And Grove City's at 82%.
Correct.
And Westland's at 83%.
And
so basically they're saying there's nothing that we can salvage.
Yeah, and you got to remember, in that renovation, you aren't necessarily going to get the current layout of the educational process as it stands now. Let's just take a Grove City and Westland. They're sister buildings. They're identical floor plans for the most part. The entrance doesn't come into a secured vestibule. We could create a secured vestibule, but I can't move the office where it's located on the inside of the building necessarily. There's certain things that you're not going to be able to renovate up to a current standard that is currently happening. When you start talking about underground plumbing, we ran into this in East Franklin when we were renovating East Franklin. We ended up doing a lot more work in East Franklin where we had to cut out all the hallway floors to put new drainage tile in for the sewer system, that entire building. That wasn't on the original plan because it wasn't thought it needed it. And we got into it, it's like, it needs it. So when you start breaking out, something I like to look at is these buildings run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They are nonstop buildings. If you think about that, over 55 years, you're over 500,000 hours that they've been running. Just running in that time period. And they run every day, every night. That infrastructure is getting to that point. You wouldn't take a 1970s car and drive to Florida and back every day for 6 weeks. It's the same concept.
I know this may be too far ahead, but you know how when we did our segments, buildings looked similar, or if we renovated, inside looked similar. Maybe the outside, like at East Franklin, stayed the same, but it had the modern touch as the other new builds. With Grove City and Westland, do you look at trying to do a similar design to Franklin Heights, and is that cost savings? Or do you, if you don't go with them, will them two be the same?
That's where the community input comes in. When we designed the middle schools, the input came back from the community and says, we don't want them to look identical to the elementary buildings, but we want there to be some similarities. So that's where that input from the community is. How do you want it to look? The savings is doing 2 identical floor plans and models in building design. You'll see the shapes, the blobs,
Right.
were the same blob shape. That's because we get an economy of scale. When you start talking about plans and design, it's identical. You're just putting it on a different site.
Okay.
So that's where your economy of scale comes into. When you actually have the overall designing part of it, that's really community input of what they want to see in these buildings. Do they want it to look similar to Franklin Heights, or do they want it to look more like a Central Crossing? I mean, that 2000 era building, I can go across the state and I can point out what year it was built if I look at the build of it, because I can go many different counties and say, yep, that was built in 2000, because that's what everybody was building.
Monty, I appreciate you bringing that up. There's really 3 different pieces that help us stay within our budget. Monty mentioned the third, which is the same floor design. But the first 2 are, 1, building on your own land. So sometimes you have to go obtain property. We already have the athletic complexes there, and we're able to fit a new building on that land. But the second one is also building in a single stage and not phasing that project. So lots of opinions on, well, what if you did this? Well, we don't want to phase the project because that drives the costs up as well. So it's really those 3 factors that help us stay within our budget. So you bring that up.
But it's good to know that you're taking the community input for them to help with what they want the design to look like. It's unique.
Do we know the timeline of if this goes on the ballot in November and it doesn't pass, and we get 3 opportunities, what does that do to our timeline?
Moves it up a year or moves it back a year. I mean,
So every time we, yeah, so we're looking, what did we say,
Because
2031?
property taxes, to be clear, property taxes are always paid in arrears. So if you pass in November, you can get going right away in January. If you pass in May, you still have to wait till the next January to start collecting taxes. You only start paying taxes in January.
Right, that makes sense.
So then, the longer you wait, it's gonna be more expensive because you're gonna have to care for the building that's falling apart as it is.
And pay it and the inflationary costs.
That get passed.
The inflation piece is the real thing. I will say that we're working hard to, in all our estimating, to account for inflation, not just from one perspective. We're bringing in contractors actually in other groups and saying, what are you seeing in projects you're doing right now? What are cost factors you're seeing? What was it when you started compared to where you ended? And so we're doing a lot of that with our architect firm right now.
And I would say that's based on our experience. Our last 2 projects in 2012 and 2018, we've gone through the same process to make sure that we had the right budget. That's what kept us on budget. On time was sometimes.
No, I do have one question. You mentioned, this is how much your taxes would go down if it doesn't pass. What happens, absolute worst case scenario? We get 3 strikes, we're out. What happens? We have aging buildings and costs increasing and clearly a need with our projected enrollment. What would that look like for the district going forward? Not good, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, as Mr. Garza said, we just roughly threw together $35 million of building and work that we need to do probably in the coming years if we don't pass this and replace them. Is that tomorrow? Not necessarily, but any day something could change. We did not expect the water lines to freeze and break at Grove City High School in the main office.
After the gym breaks replaced.
Yeah. So, I mean, those kinds of things come up. I can tell you that the HVAC system, like I said, we are piecing it together from parts we stole from other projects at this point in time. They just aren't available. They're not there. But when we did the other projects, we scavenged those parts knowing that we needed them to get through. So at some point in time, you're going to be looking at some major dollars to keep the facility running.
Duct tape's only gonna get us so far.
We go to the bottom of the list, right?
Then we go, not all the way to the bottom.
You know,
Actually, it would be a little farther, closer to the bottom than we.
But I would also
you have to
mention
wait your
that
turn.
Mr. Garside, what he did, we're in a segmented piece, and it's not normal for the state to fund this big of a segmented piece. And what Mr. Garside was able to do is to be able to go to them and show them our history and our record, and they were able to use that to say, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this for you. Because the project itself, their funding was more than their standard funding.
Just to get all the questions out right now. So are that eligibility rating piece that we've now met, you guys didn't wait until it got to 80% on purpose. It just so happens that how the stars aligned, being next up on the list, and then they did the assessment. And it wasn't like, okay, let's wait until it's beyond repair. It just helped, like, we could have been 60.
The longer you go, the more that percentage is going to go up.
Right, and they were just not, we couldn't have gone earlier with how
No, I mean, with the segmented project, you were already on the middle school piece.
again, so it's not like we waited until, okay, we're in that wiggle room or.
Comes back to having the bonds and availability.
Previous assessments showed them higher than 2/3.
Yes.
This wasn't the first time. For Grove City.
I wasn't here, but I believe it was rated over 2/3 in 2012 when they did the first assessment.
Okay, and
Yes.
we didn't try to do that one then because.
We didn't have enough funding to do everything.
Right.
That's why it's a
The
second.
other buildings in 2012.
Yes. We had
That's right.
we had it on as a opportunity of lifetime once to do it all at one time. That didn't go very well. So the segmented project was a better option.
Well, you got what? Was that 15, 16 buildings for the 2012 one? So, okay.
Smaller buildings. These are big buildings.
These are big.
Yeah, and then another thing too, we got our first permanent improvement levy passed in this district in 2005. Prior to that, we didn't have dedicated funds to fix our buildings. So since that time, with the UFCC project, they have a program you have to put money aside for fixing these buildings in the future. It's not something that you have a choice. You have to do it. We're doing it right now with our 2012 and our 2018 projects. We have funds set aside separate from our permanent improvement money. So they're solely to be used for these buildings. We're not nickel and diamond the upgrades and the fixes that we're doing in these anything built since 2012. We're setting those funds aside to do things like roofs, HVAC. So we have a pretty good amount of funds in our maintenance fund that we're required to have. Ready to not have to go back to taxpayers and say, hey, we really didn't take care of these buildings. Now we got to fix them. We keep our buildings in as good shape as we can.
Thank you guys for answering our questions. I think it's very informative and important. because over the time you have new residents that join into the community. And so it allows for them who are new to the community to understand how we got here. And so we ask these questions because they're real questions that individuals have. And if we're thinking it, someone else is thinking it. And so that's why we wanted to do our best at due diligence and come in prepared as board members to ask every question we could. I'll always say, no question is a dumb question, because you have the question, someone else has the question. So I thank you guys for presenting that. Hugh really, really wanted to be able to present the 5-year forecast tonight, because that was what our hopes was to be able to do, to tie it next into the facilities piece of the presentation. But there is issues with the tax settlement for Franklin County, and so those numbers are delayed. Hugh's goal was always to get those numbers so they could give you that forecast as close to what we are looking at as possible. So because those were delayed, we're only required to do a 5-year forecast twice a year, February and August. Probably by the time he gets those, we'll be knocking on the August mark. So we're planning to try to redo this come August board meeting for you guys to be able to have that, okay? So that's why there's no 5-year forecast tonight. Okay.
I have a question still on this topic of the kind of what's next. Like, if folks in the community do have questions, or is it well there? And then obviously I don't think it's later in this that we put it on for June, but will there be like a dedicated website? Is there like a link? Is there gonna be something that like this goes out, tomorrow on YouTube and people have questions? What do we do? Is there a follow-up for the community to ask questions, or is there gonna be some sort of info link out there?
I think first and foremost, we have to have the 2 resolutions passed.
Yes.
Okay.
Because those, if we're not gonna pass those, it's kind of a moot point at that time. So, I think.
You say the link doesn't exist?
Yeah, not to get the cart before the horse, but I think the board has to take their action first. It's up to you guys, up to you 5, really. If you wanna proceed with this. First resolution is what I said is a resolution of necessity. And it basically says, here's why we're asking for the money. We give that to the county auditor. They give us the millage rate, give us all the assumptions that make up that millage rate. I get that information, and then I put together a resolution to proceed. That resolution to proceed is what I use with the resolution of necessity to take down to the County Board of Elections. And they take those 2 documents, those 2 resolutions, and then they put it on the ballot.
Okay, so but they're
Once that resolution to proceed hits, then I think that's when we can start.
right. And so my point is, this is a government thing, right? So it's not gonna be like tomorrow this stuff's gonna be out there. So when folks are looking for information why it's taking forever, I know I've been, again, promised a high school for a very long time. And, but the idea is it takes time. There's a process for everything. So just because we're having this discussion right this moment, doesn't mean tomorrow we're going to be putting shovels in the ground. There's still a process before we even get to the FAQ new build stuff.
Alrighty, moving along. Any board reports?
I have a couple things, if I may. The first thing is, I just wanted to give the board an update. Dr. Dillon and I sit on the district finance advisory board, and we've been meeting monthly and just kind of going over finances with our community members that are on the board with us. State funding, federal funding, expenditures, property taxes, history of bond issues, uniform school accounting system, all kinds of fun financial stuff. So anyway, just wanted to kind of give an update to everybody, just what we're doing in that advisory board. It's great to have community members come in and sit with us, and to have Hugh go over all his financial jargon and share that with everybody and ask questions, and it's just really great. So just wanted to give an update on that. And then I just kind of wanted to touch, you may have noticed a couple months ago, The district set up a Follett Destiny platform. You might have seen it come through your Infinite Campus with your kiddos if you have kiddos in the district, or I always like to see it on the newsletters from the principals when they send out building newsletters. And so I just wanted to get a little bit of information on that and an update and some interesting information from one of our librarians that I just wanted to share some statistics, which I thought was really, really great. So this year we had 333,491 checkouts from our library system. So that's physical checkouts, digital checkouts, library use, renewals. And so just a shout out to our IT department for putting that together and giving our families just a way that they can go in and see what library books we have in our libraries. If you want to encourage, your young reader to check out some new titles or new genres, or you're looking for something specific, you can go on and do that. But I just thought it was really, really great to see those statistics, and I have it broken down by building. So I feel like maybe we could do like a little competition next year among the building. And Josh, maybe we could come up with something. I know, Josh was in on that. So
Beginning of the year.
a little challenge maybe for the building to, check out more books and read more books next year. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out. So thank you to the IT department for doing that, and kudos to our librarians and all their hard work this year.
Forgot about that. He used the kids as an example to show us how to navigate that at the beginning of the year. All righty, moving along. Public participation. There was no signups for that area. So we are related to the agenda items. No public participation, I should say that, related to the agenda items. Now we're moving along to Board Member Chelsea Alkire for Student and Staff Achievement Liaison Report.
Thank you, President Peterson. I got a whole page full, so bear with me. We have a lot to celebrate. Congratulations to Grove City High School junior cadet Grace Robinette, who was recognized last month as the 2026 Ohio JROTC Enhanced Bronze Medal Award recipient by the Sons of the American Revolution. She was nominated by the Benjamin Franklin chapter of Central Ohio. This honor recognizes a cadet's high degree of merit in leadership excellence, military bearing, academics, and athletics. Cadet Robinette was formally presented with her award at the Ohio SAR Award ceremony in Toledo last month. As the state champion, her award package now advances to the SAR national headquarters for national level consideration. Congratulations to Central Crossing High School and Grove City High School's NJROTC units have both earned the prestigious designation of Area 14 Distinguished Unit for 2025-2026 school year, each also receiving academic honors. This recognition reflects the program's continued excellence in leadership, academic achievement, and overall performance. The accomplishments highlight the dedication and hard work of the cadets, instructors, and school communities at both buildings. Ongoing support from building leadership and front office staff has been essential in sustaining these high standards of success. Together, both NJROTC programs exemplify the powerful impact of strong school support and student commitment. Congratulations to the Franklin Heights High School NJROTC drone team for an outstanding performance on the national stage in Atlanta, Georgia this past weekend. Competing against 60 other schools, including regional champions from around the country, the team placed 20th and 27th overall. Their global rankings now stand at 454 and 589 out of nearly 2,000 schools worldwide. In addition, Team 1 earned second place for the prestigious REC Foundation Judges Award. This honor recognizes teams that demonstrate exceptional effort, perseverance, professionalism, and a strong student-centered approach, qualities that truly set them apart. An incredible achievement that reflects the hard work and dedication of these students. Congratulations to Grove City High School for earning 2026 Kappa Marquis Awards honors for Outstanding Student Orchestra, Outstanding Dance Execution, and Outstanding Ensemble for Chicago Teen Edition. Winners will be celebrated next week at the ceremony. Congratulations to Southwestern Career Academy Culinary Arts and Hospitality Management student Marely Cruz, who earned 3 culinary scholarships through Ohio Hospitality and ProStart from Quora, White Castle, and Young's Dairy. Marely will continue pursuing her passion this fall at the Culinary Institute of America in New York. And congratulations to Eliani Franco for qualifying for the Ohio Power of the Pen State Tournament, a prestigious statewide writing competition that recognizes middle school students for excellence in creative writing, quick thinking, and storytelling. Advancing to the state level is a significant accomplishment and reflects this student's strong writing skills, creativity, and dedication. And if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that was yesterday and today, the state competition on Power. It was.
And Evan's team had a really cool video. I don't know if you saw it on Instagram, and where she had to clap out through the school. It was so cool. Very neat.
Thank you. Moving along, items for action under fiscal operations with Dr. Kelly Dillon.
Okay, we have 11. So the first is the revised permanent appropriations for fiscal year 25-26, CX1. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revised permanent appropriations. Item 2, investments and financial statements for April 2026, CX2 and X3. It is recommended that in accordance with section 135.14 of the Ohio Revised Code, the Board of Education approve April investments, X2, and cash position report for the month of April 2026, X3. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve payment of bills according to the list of checks for the month of April 2026, CX4. On X5, we see our donations. There was a $50,000 donation from Honda, which is thanks to the efforts of Travis Lucas, Engineering and Technologies instructor at the Southwestern Career Academy, to support engineering and robotics program within the district. The funds will be used to purchase supplies and materials, curriculum, and equipment to support the program. Great job, Lucas, Mr. Lucas. Number 5, it is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the treasurer to pay bills for April which were not processed in accordance with section 5705.41 of the Ohio Revised Code CX6. It is also recommended that the Board of Education enter into an agreement with the YMCA of Central Ohio to provide Head Start programming for the 2026-27 school year as presented, CX7. The district is a subgrantee or provider to the YMCA of Central Ohio for our Head Start. The federal Head Start program tries to restrict the number of grants it awards throughout the county. And due to the size of our Head Start program, we're required to go through a grantee like the YMCA of Central Ohio to provide our programming. Well, it would be much easier to run our own program under our own grant. However, at this time, it's not an option for the district to become a direct grant recipient of Head Start funding. Thus, the agreement with the YMCA. It is recommended that the Board of Education extend the existing depository agreements with Fifth Third, Huntington, and PNC banks for the time period August 1st, 2026 through July 31st, 2031, CX8. We're required to enter into depository agreements with financial institutions that hold our active and interim funds in compliance with the Uniform Depository Act. These agreements are required to be on record and available to the auditor of the state's office. The district has current depository agreements that expire with each of these 3 banking institutions, Fifth Third, Huntington, and PNC. They are set to expire on July 31st. Therefore, new agreements are required at this time, CX8. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the new and revised student activity purpose clauses and to create the fund special cost centers as presented in X9. The new accounts will include the Interactive Media Design Account Fund Special Cost Center being created to account for the fees and expenses associated with activities at the Career Academy within our Interactive Media Design curriculum. And these student activity funds are for each high school, are set up each year for the class of 2030 for the incoming freshman class to account for their class activities from freshman to senior years. There are several small revisions to these existing purpose clauses to allow for flexibility within established fiscal guidelines. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the resolution as presented for the district to become members of the Equalis Group Purchasing Cooperative. This allows government entities to be a part of larger bids that can be used to procure supplies and materials that would normally need to be part of a separate bid. Many districts across Ohio are part of this program. The district is a member of many of these cooperative purchasing programs that are regional and national. They set consistent pricing for all members to use, and this saves us both time and money as we don't have to do a separate bid for work to be performed. It is recommended that the Board of Education enter into an agreement with the Franklin County Common Pleas Court to provide truancy services for the 2026-27 school year, CX8. In 2016, HB 410 was put into place to really put some teeth behind the laws to help school districts combat truancy. And since that, the district has partnered with the Franklin County Common Pleas Court to provide truancy officers that work for the county in conjunction with the district. We receive the services of 3 truancy officers that work 4 days a week in the district and 1 day at the courthouse. And these officers have the connections necessary to provide the appropriate services mandated by that law. The cost of the district is $97,773 for these 3 truancy officers. And finally, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the list of students deemed impractical to transport for the 2026-27 school year as presented, CX11. According to section 3327.02, of the Ohio Revised Code, the average cost of transportation per child in the state of Ohio for the 2026-27 school year will be determined by the State Department of Education and Workforce. Each year, we need to reevaluate routes for the upcoming school year to determine if the district can provide transportation in a reasonable manner. Sometimes we find it impractical to do so. The state of Ohio sets the standard on what it determines as impractical, and also sets the rate at which parents will be reimbursed for providing transportation for their students. The rate for the 2026-27 school year has not been calculated by the state of Ohio yet. None of the students in the list that we have as executive content, due to confidential student information, attend any of our buildings. All of them attend either a private parochial school or a community school. We do provide transportation to private and parochial schools if it's deemed to be efficient. In these specific cases, it has been determined that it is impractical to transport, and therefore payment in lieu of transportation will be provided. Madam President, after reviewing these items, I would like to move for them for approval.
Can I get a second?
Can I ask the question first?
Can I get my second?
Second.
You picked one of them. Okay, discussion. Now you may ask your question.
Thank you. I just wanted to verify with Mr. Garside, the Equalis Group Purchasing Cooperative, there is no fee for being a part of that group.
Correct, no fee to join.
Good question.
This is a separate group from the Meta group we joined the last couple of times.
Correct.
There's a co-op for every activity you want to do.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Ms. Deans-O'Steele,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes, thank you. Moving along, items for action with curriculum for Chelsea Alkire.
Thank you, President Peterson. Tonight we're presenting the first reading for the proposed adoption of Amplified Desmos Math, which would be for grades K through 6. And then just some background on it. The recommendation was made after a multi-year process to review a variety of curriculum. There was a committee of 65 teachers, and it included intervention specialists, EL educators, and building level stakeholders. A total of 449 teachers, which was 76% of the eligible staff, participated in the final vote, with 81% approval for Amplified Desmos Math. For K4 and 99% in grades 5 through 6. Some staff have been piloting this process throughout the district. The selected program gives comprehensive problem-based approach to math that includes print resources, digital learning tools, hands-on manipulatives, and embedded support for all of the learners. It will support 587 teachers and approximately 10,855 students from 2026 through 2033. And just as a note, this program is already being implemented across the 7 through 12 math classrooms within our district, which allows for a level of fluidity and familiarity of the programming for the students. Any member of the Board of Education or the community at large are invited to review any and all of the materials considered if we pass it by calling Bonnie Goldbach at 801-3000 and scheduling an appointment. Materials will be available for review starting tomorrow, May 19th until June 8th, when the board will take action.
Can I get a second?
Second, Liz Kenny.
I have a question for just clarification. So we've done this before. We've done a few curriculums over the last couple of years. The curriculum, we just did that 7 through 12 curriculum. We did that last year, correct? So, and I did go and look at it. They have a nice little room up there. Everything is set up. You can go and check it out and read it. And it's not an online thing. It's a physically go in and look at the materials and check them out. I think some of the books have the same decoration and graph rates from when I took that class. But they've updated it, there's things, so it is, again, there's so many things we do that are repetitive, whether it's the cooperatives, whether it's, all of the things. We also do this, the curriculums in every year cycle. I think it's kind of weird to implement at a higher level than a lower level. It's kind of flip-flopped, but having that cohesion of getting on board, that was really cool. But we did just do a math curriculum last year for the 7 through 12.
And am I right that this is going to replace iReady?
Ready, man.
Oh, because there's still the already reading portion. Is that still a thing?
Diagnostic.
Diagnostic. Math curriculum. Ready math. We should emphasize
I don't
that
know
one more time.
I don't know anybody who's excited.
Ready
about
math
that.
is gonna go
Really?
away.
Oh, that is, okay, we ready? Roll call.
Southgar,
Yes.
Sliskany,
Yes.
Steves Lucille,
Yes.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes, we're gonna keep it with Chelsea so that she can present our trips for our buildings that are coming up.
Yes. Thank you, President Peterson.
Mhm.
We have 6 items for action. Central Crossing High School boys basketball students have the opportunity to travel to Sandusky from June 8th through 10th, with approximately 11 students and 3 adult chaperones. Transportation, lodging, and trip expenses will be provided through private automobiles and the boosters. Grove City High School Travel Club students have the opportunity to travel to Peru from June 12th through 21st, 2028. Is that your right? With approximately 20 students and 4 adult chaperones participating, and no loss of instructional time. Transportation and lodging will be provided via charter bus, airplane, and local hotel accommodations, with trip expenses paid by participating students and the parents. Grove City High School cheerleading students have the opportunity to travel to Mason, Ohio for the UCA Cheer Camp from July 20th to 23rd, with approximately 60 students and 6 adult chaperones participating. They will not miss any school. Transportation and lodging will be provided via school bus, private automobiles, and local hotel accommodations. Trip expenses for that will be paid through parent contributions, student payments, and fundraising activity. Central Crossing High School and Franklin Heights High School NJROTC students have the opportunity to travel to Edinburgh, Indiana from June 15th to 20th with 6 students and 2 adult chaperones. There will be no loss of instructional time. Transportation and lodging will be provided via the 9-passenger vans and local hotel accommodations, and the trip expenses will be paid through NJROTC funds. Pleasant View Middle School 8th grade students have the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. from May 20th to 23rd, 2026. They will have approximately 88 students and 9 adult chaperones. Students will miss 3 days of school. Transportation and lodging will be provided via charter bus and local hotel accommodations, with the trips being paid for by the participating students and their parents. And lastly, Pleasant View Middle School 8th grade student Hold on. That's the same one.
Yep, number 6. Do you have Southwest Career Academy students to travel to Atlanta, Georgia?
Hell yeah.
You're gonna travel to Atlanta,
Hold on, I
Georgia.
got it.
Page 11.
She don't want me to steal her section.
I got it. The Southwestern Career Academy Culinary Arts has the opportunity to travel to Atlanta, Georgia, June 1st through 6th, 2026. The students will miss 2 days of school. Approximately 10 students will be accompanied by 2 adult chaperones. Transportation will be provided by a 9-passenger van and hotel accommodations made locally, and the trip expenses will be paid via the Career Technical Education Department. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Southwestern City Schools Board of Ed hereby authorizes the trips that were listed.
Can I hear this?
Second, Dylan.
Any questions or discussion? Been along.
I always start with the number 2, the trip to Peru in 2028. I always have a hard time approving things that are that far out. Hopefully there are precautions being made and insurances for the students. I mean, we're talking about sophomores making decisions their senior year so is this like just the freshmen and sophomores are able to go on this trip or something? So I don't know. It just one of those things, we're proving something that's going to happen on Wednesday this week and something 2 years from now. Just want to put that out there. Hopefully they're doing all the precautions.
So are all groups that we have approved always do the precautions? They're using companies. And we have to remember, these students and parents, they're fundraising to pay for some of these expenses, so you can't wait to the last minute. You gotta secure the trips, and then they are able to fundraise to make payments once.
Right. Which is interesting. That's the same night as the Pleasant View DC trip that happens on Wednesday. So they already fundraised this whole time. But it's just interesting how it plays out. Just a caveat there.
Yes.
Like footnote 2028. Oh my goodness.
Make your reservations now.
Yeah.
You gotta plan,
Yeah.
you gotta fundraise and plan financially for these types of trips.
But it sounds fun. I'm glad they get to go.
Can I get roll call?
Salkar,
Yes.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Steensel Steele,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes, keep hanging in with us. This is the long meeting, but the only meeting, so we gotta get it all approved. I am moving it along to items for action with personnel with Vice President Julie Liskini.
Thank you, President Peterson. For tonight's board meeting, there are 10 action items under personnel involving 1,398 persons. I'm gonna go through every one, so that one.
Please, that's it with you.
I'm
It's
teasing.
my anniversary.
Yes. 32 certificated and administrative resignations or retirements, 2 administrative employments, 14 certificated changes in employment, 198 certificated employments, 145 of those are supplemental, 17 classified resignations, 14 classified changes in employment, 53 classified employments, 648 certificated reemployments, 15 non-renewal of limited contracts. These are long-term subs, and 405 resignation of substitute teachers. And yes, we do this every year. Don't panic, everybody. We have to do this at the end of each school year. So there are some big numbers that were just read. Each year at the May board meeting, we approve the contract recommendations for our teaching staff. 648 of those were up for contract this year. Also at this meeting, we resign all of our substitute teachers. So that was the 405. And then have them reapply over the summer and make sure they have their substitute license before we bring them back to the board for approval next year. We are hosting 2 Hire and Drive events this summer. June 16th from 9 a.m. to noon at the Transportation Depot, and July 16th from 12 to 3 p.m. at the Transportation Depot. After reviewing these items, I move them for approval.
Can I get a second?
Second, Alcott.
Any questions or discussion? Can I get roll call?
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkar,
Yes.
Ms. Steensel Steele,
Yes.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Lights off.
Sorry, I just.
Testing, yeah, okay.
All righty.
Okay, thank you. President Pearson, Vice President Liskini, Board of Education members, Mr. Banks, Mr. Garside. Love bringing up our new administrators. They got to be here for a long government lesson tonight, so it was good. All right.
Getting out with that.
So, but I'm going to start off first talking about our Holt Crossing Intermediate Assistant Principal. I'm happy to announce Mr. Josh Dorn. So he's going to I'm stealing him from all the things you want him to do. He's emerged to be a recommendation for Holt Crossing Intermediate School as their assistant principal. Josh comes to us internally, obviously, from the District Service Center, where he has served as our technology liaison since 2024. Josh has supported the district through a variety of staff development initiatives, including preparing staff for changes related to Senate Bill 29, impacting technology safety, serving as facilitator on the district AI task force, Dr. Bowser, and supporting student access to curriculum products and coordinating with our building PTCs. He's known everywhere. He's got a great sense of enthusiasm you saw tonight. Prior to the District Service Center, he worked at Norton Middle School, serving our students and families there in many capacities, including as a math teacher, science teacher, and building technology coordinator for more than 10 years. Holds a Bachelor of Arts from Capital, Master in Education from Western Governors University. I think you felt the energy tonight, just real quick, with the team of Dave and Josh back there. But I'd like to introduce you, Mr. Josh Dorn. Very excited for him. Come on up, Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Good evening, President Peterson, Vice President Liskini, board members, Mr. Banks, Mr. Garside. It is a true honor to stand before you tonight to accept the position of Assistant Principal at Holt Crossing Intermediate School. I want to express my sincere gratitude to the board, the administrators that I've worked with over the years, for your confidence in my leadership and the incredible opportunity to serve our district in this new capacity next school year. I'm especially excited, though, to bring my passion for innovation and student success to the Rocket family. I look forward to collaborating with the talented staff at Holt Crossing to ensure every student feels supported and empowered as they navigate through these crucial intermediate years. I once again thank you for your opportunity and continue my journey in the district, which I have had the pleasure to call home for such a long time. And as always, go Rockets. Thank you.
Okay, and finally tonight, your second hire this evening was Mr. Jeff Tackett, who had a chance to meet at the beginning as our new assistant principal at Norton Middle School. We took him from Hilliard, very excited about that. Ray served as the American Sign Language teacher and intervention specialist since 2014. He was the district's first he is the district's first American Sign Language teacher and played an integral role in developing the program and its curriculum, as well as its expansion across the district. Additionally, he brings extensive experience supporting students in diverse learning needs, helping them grow and achieve goals outlined in individualized education plans. Prior to his work with certificated roles, he served students and families in a variety of capacities, including a teacher assistant, substitute educational aide, and coaching Hilliard State schools at both the middle and high school levels. Tackett has accumulated over 20 years of coaching experience serving students in football, softball, wrestling programs. And again, just the energy in the back room tonight. Obviously, Dr. Spain's here, and a big shout out to her and a big thanks to her and all of her supports who've gone through this. If you notice the middle grades, we can kind of rotate through some people in the middle grades here, and it's all good stuff for us. But we're very excited to have Jeff join our team and look forward to what him and Ms. Frazier do together. So come on up, Jeff.
Thank you for having me here. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be a part of the Southwestern City Schools, especially the Norton Middle School family. I'm looking forward to bringing my strengths to building those relationships and making those connections to get the best out of our students and our staff that we serve at Norton Middle School. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you. It is always great to see our internal leadership growth. Josh had my kids and then went on, and I served on SCC with him and then came over to DSC and now back with the kids. And I always say welcome to those who are now joining our Southwestern family. So thank you and congratulations. Moving along, we have one speaker for public participation related to non-agenda items. That is Terry Jones.
Well, it's good to see everybody again. Hope you're all doing well. I'll get right into it. And tonight's going to be the parable of the sower. Christ taught us in his parable of the sower that he is the sower, and the seed he plants is the word of God, and that it falls on different types of soil, which brings about different results. It's a central teaching where Jesus explains how different hearts receive the message of the gospel. For my text this evening, I'm reading from the Gospel chapter of Mark, the parable of the sower. Hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground where it had not much earth, and immediately sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and yielded no fruit. Another fell on good ground and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased. Some brought forth some 30, and some 60, and some 100. And he said unto them, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked of him the parable. And he said unto them, The sower soweth the word. And these are they by the wayside where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately, and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. They're the ones that have hardened themselves against the gospel of Christ and against the conviction of the Holy Spirit. The mockers, the scoffers, the rebellious, the merciless, the hate mongers, the violent, the unbelieving, their conscience long dead and their minds closed and reprobate beyond reform, willfully rejective, lacking spiritual understanding, never repenting, never coming to Christ, and forever lost. And these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground, who when they have heard the word immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution ariseth for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. They're the ones that received Christ but never fully rooted themselves in faith. And because of weak faith, they're superficial, unfocused, shallow, temporary, unstable, and never fully committed. They quickly waver and fall away when challenges or social pressures arise because of faith rather than enduring. The Bible says, He that wavers is like a wave of the sea driven with the wind and tossed, and that a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. But Christ demands a focused and unwavering commitment. Jesus said, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Despite persecutions and the daily challenges to our faith, Jesus demands that we stay committed, maintaining our faith, our love, our steadfastness, and persevering in Christ unto the end. There's no place in Christ for a part-time Christian. Jesus demands a full-time commitment. And these are they which are sown among thorns, which such as hear the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches and the lust of other things entering in choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. Jesus said that no man can serve two masters. Christ above all else has to be our priority, above family, above friends, above wealth, above the fears, above the cares and envy for the things of this world. There's no place in Christ for divided loyalty. Jesus said to seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all your needs will be met. And these are they which are sown on good ground, such as hear the word and receive it and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. They're the ones whose lives have been profoundly changed by the saving grace of Jesus Christ. They realize there was something deeper in their lives that they needed, an unfulfilled longing in their soul, something materialism or wealth or pleasure can't satisfy. They realized what they needed most was forgiveness of sin and peace with Christ, and to hear him say, as he said to the paralytic, Be of good cheer, your sins are forgiven you. Peace with Christ and forgiveness of sins is given to all who ask. Jesus said in John 6:37, All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. Choose you this day, the Bible says, whom ye will serve. Will you choose Christ unto life, or will it be the wages of sin unto death? And I hand it back over to the board.
You, Terry. Moving along, items for discussion.
Madam President, I just wanted to give those that are watching at home and those that are with us today a few more legislative updates that are coming through that would directly affect K-12 public schools. There are a few that are now in the Senate. If you are interested in them, you can give Senator Michelle Reynolds a call at 614-466-8064. House Bill 500 designates JROTC programs offered by a school district as career technical education programs. HB 25 establishes a Foster to College scholarship program and makes related changes to support foster youth access to public education. Now in the House, in the Education Committee, HB 125 would require districts to count a student as present when participating in district-approved, school-sponsored, or workforce preparation activities during school hours. Originally, it was limited to programs like FFA and ROTC, but it has since been expanded to any district-approved, school-sponsored event. Both SB 113 and HB 155 are in their respective education committees. They would require every local school district board of education to adopt a policy eliminating any diversity, equity, and inclusion, though none of those terms are actually defined in the proposed bills. As a reminder, our district has over 50% minority enrollment and a 21% of Hispanic students. HB 674 would authorize public or private school districts to contract with rideshare services such as Uber and Lyft to transport students to and from school. This could have important ramifications on transportation and safety of our students. HB 523 would require ODEW to provide cost of living stipends and the State Board of Education to provide test fee reimbursements to student teachers, which is a good recruiting tool to get new teachers to the state of Ohio. HB 594 would require high schools to offer at least one computer science course and require students to complete it as a graduation requirement, readying them for the 21st century workforce. HB 42, in violation of Plyer versus Doe, a 1982 decision, would require school districts to annually report the citizenship and immigration status of enrolled students through EMIS to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. In the Finance Committee, HB 583 would establish safety policy and technology protection requirements for InfoOhio and the Ohio Web Library, or OWL. And HB 719 would reverse changes made to the state teachers retirement system board composition. In HB 96, the biennial budget had reduced the number of elected teacher member seats, but HB 719 would re-establish those seats. If any citizen is interested, you can contact your representative. It might be Representative Mark Segrist at 614-466-9690, Representative Christine Cockley at 614-644-6005, or Representative Brian Stewart at 614-466-1464.
Any other items for discussion? Hearing none, we have made it to the end. I thank you all for riding this journey tonight with us. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Can I get a second?
Second, Dylan.
Roll call.
Snellcar.
Yeah.
Dr. Dillon.
Yes.
D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes. Everyone be safe. Career Academy graduation on Thursday.